others, are you guys listening, or you have put it on mute and you decide to watch the recording later? Maybe you can all drop your hands, and uh, Shah and Ramana, if you can drop your hands. Now maybe the others. So I have 4 votes in favor of moving along, right? So now others who want to have hands-on, right? Small hands-ons of 10 minutes or 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like that. So maybe whoever wants a hands-on, can you give a raise of hands? If no one is raising hands, I will assume that the remaining people are either not there or they are neutral. So if you want hands-on, please, give a quick raise of hands. Okay, cool. Then the majority is that, yeah, we don't want hands-ons, right? We can move ahead. So I'm going ahead. The next topic I wanted to show you is, so any questions on this? The views, the joins and union operator.
Okay. Not about this, Ram. I have a general question. It's like I am into analytics, but very much new to the data warehousing and all these things. But somewhere I get lost because some of the wording or where can I improve those, like data federation, data persistency. Those are little new words for me, and some of things like how would I get a understanding on what are those and how it is implied in the warehousing and all.
Okay, so 2 things. So one is I can suggest a course to you, right? Not about SAC or DataSphere, a general course. So there is a Coursera course by Google on data analytics, right? So, and that course is generally talking about all these exact terminologies that you are seeing, and all those stuff, right, related to data warehousing and data analytics in general. And there is a glossary sheet which you can download in one of the lessons, and that will give you all the terminology. So about that. And also most of this, I think, at least till some, this is the specialization of 8 courses, right? So, and in this, the first 3 or 4 courses is about getting the correct mindset, and it's not like a very technical course where you do a lot of coding or SQL or Python, etc. But it is mostly getting you into that that consulting mindset, or the functionality of how things are happening, the various terminologies and so on. And in between each of those courses, there will be interviews by different people who are working on different roles. They will interview a person who is working as a data engineer, who is working as a data scientist, who is maintaining a pipeline, etc. And then you will get to understand the various aspects also. So I would say there is now one more course also is available, which is called advanced analytics. So again, that is a specialization that also has all these things, and they are adding this new Gen AI and all that. But I'm not interested in all that. The only thing I'm interested on this course is it will give you a proper mindset. It will give you the glossary of the common terms, and it will give you direct, interviews by people who are doing that, right? And then you will also get to know what are all the various roles that are available in the data community. Right? So that way, this course is better. And coming to the second thing, so which I mostly do is, ChatGPT, and if I read a blog or article, and then I come across something, right? So I come across, okay, data fabric versus data federation or something, like 2 different things. I don't understand what they are. Uh, I will put it here. So data fabric and data lake. Then it explains me what they are in general, right? Like this. But I can also ask it to point me to interesting blogs or books and everything. So now, I mean, most of the time when I'm trying to do some learning, I will do like that on ChatGPT. Or even better, there is another site called Perplexity. Right? So again, I'm not promoting any of this. I personally use it, so I am suggesting it to you. It's up to you to use it or not use it, right? So again, in Perplexity, what you can do is you can just put a concept. For example, I want to know about data fabric and its implementation, right? So here, how Perplexity is different from ChatGPT is, in ChatGPT you can get almost the same thing, but you have to prompt in a proper way. You have to say that include only facts, give me the links and all that, and then it will give. But Perplexity by default, when you just search for something, if I just said data fabric, it will always give me all these different things. So it will give me videos related to that, which I can directly jump to on YouTube or something, and then it will give me images, which is good because. So if you're not talking, can you please go on?
Yes.
Sorry, okay. So I was hearing some background noise. Yeah, sometimes when some concepts, it's better in pictures. So yeah, so it will also give you pictures, and also all these are not hallucinations, right? So sometimes what happens in ChatGPT is, again, if your prompt is not having some guardrails or something, what happens is it gives you very believable answers. It will tell something which you believe, and you will make it part of your memory. But the problem is, when you are discussing with people, you will find out that that's entirely wrong, right? And then you will look like a fool in front of people. That will not happen that much in Perplexity, because again, it is basing its this entire answer based on some of the sources, right? And again, if the source itself is wrong or the blog itself is wrong, then that's okay. But at least it is not generating some content out of hallucination. So that way, yeah, if you're learning something, go for Perplexity, or yeah, if you are good at prompting, go for ChatGPT. But yeah, in general, for this data analytics itself, I would say this is a good course. And any follow-up questions on that?
Oh, no, thank you. I'll just go through those.
Okay. Okay, so now coming back to the view. So here we have three aspects which we have not discussed so far. So we will discuss those aspects. Right? The first aspect is, in the view, we have this properties panel. Right? So far, we were using only the, the topmost part of it. I mean, this first part where we can give a view name. So I can say sales orders view or something, and then the state, is it released or not released, and then the semantic usage, exposed for consumption, etc. And then we have this column section, and there are so many other sections, right? So we saw what is data persistency, but then there are so many other sections, right? So some of this we will cover it, right? Uh, in as we progress. So data persistency, we already know what is that. So associations, we'll come to that, right? So how to create associations. It's basically, the relationship between one view or one table with other views or other tables, right? So it is not exactly join, but it is kind of, a link between the two different objects, can be table or views. Data access control, again, in this entire view, there are 6 records, but for some security purpose, I am just thinking that, or as per the business requirement, only certain people has access to certain things. For example, maybe I should only see smartphones and smartwatch, all the smart devices, whereas someone else should only see tablet and laptop. Like that, we have to have some row level security. For that, we will use the data access control. And there is one new, not very new, there is one feature in the preview screen, which again, you can give view as user and you can give another username to basically test how that they would see the data. Right. So that again, we'll discuss when we are talking about data access control. This business purpose section is somewhat a section which is there, but I don't see a lot of people using it. But if you use it, it's good, basically for searching and so on. So in the repository explorer, when people are searching, they can search with tags. And basically, SAP always wants to catalog the data, right? So, and this section, business purpose section, basically helps people in understanding some things more. So, for example, this is a view. So, if I want to describe this view, saying that okay, this is sales order data, and we are only storing the current 1 year of data in this, or something that is not very obvious. You don't have to say that this is a sales order view. That is very obvious from the name. But if there are some restrictions, if you are saying that we always keep only 1 year of data, or if you require more data, then check the other view, something like that. Some information that you know as a modeler, but you want other modelers or other consumers to know, you can put it here in the description. So I can say that this is a hot view which has current year data for all archive data. Check out other, okay, or something like that. If I have another view, I can just say that some information like this, which you think is not obvious, and it adds value. So same like in programming, we say, right, put comments, and then we see that some people never use comments, and some people overdo the comments. Some people will say, here I am getting the user input, here I am printing things, right? Both are wrong. So if you never put comments, that's also wrong. If you put too many comments, that's also wrong. Same way here, there is a description field. So I see, some people just they say this is a view on sales order. That's obvious. Yes, I can see that. If you have information like this, then you can put it here. And if it's a very short information, you can basically even put it in the purpose field itself. But if it is somewhat long, if you want to describe the entire process, or for example, if I want to say what happened, so if I put this information in the purpose, right? Something some questions will come to people mind, like okay, so when you say current year, when does the cutover happen, or who is responsible for the cutover? So do you do it in December, or do you do it in Jan? So if I see in Jan, what happens? So will I only see the Jan data in this view, or it is like a rolling window? So all these kind of questions will come up in mind, right? So those questions you try to answer in the longer description, or as you as the year progresses, if you are doing not only the implementation but also the maintenance, you will see questions from different business users. Even though you have put a purpose, there will be some questions, right? So if you get the same type of questions from 2 3 people, then you can understand that okay, this seems to be a FAQ, right? So maybe I should answer that in the description. That is also a good use of this description I have seen, where people have tried to answer FAQs, right? So I would say in purpose, you put a short purpose of what you want people to understand. And then in the description, you try to do a longer version where you are not repeating the same thing in long words, but you are trying to answer the questions that can come in people's mind. So I have put something like this. Now people can think, okay, what's this, what's that? So some of the questions you can envision, based on your previous experience. But some of the questions, as the year progresses, you can keep updating. So you see that okay, 2 people have asked me this. Maybe I am tired of explaining it again and again. So maybe you can put short information on that in the description. And coming to business contact person, so there is a view, right? So I can see in the view itself, I can see maybe who is the creator, who is the recently changed person, all that. But typically, if you have a team or a particular person who is the specialist in this, or who is the responsible in this, then you can put the person name here. Generally, I would suggest not putting a person name, because that creates a single point of dependency. So ideally, even though it says a business contact person name, ideally here also you can put a DL or something, which is handling that particular business related thing, right? So you put a DL or some information on who to contact if something they have some questions, or something is not working as expected, etc. So here it's a free text field, so you can write anything. You can just say a name, like you can just say Ram is the business contact, something like that. Or you can also put an email ID. You can say ram@example.com, or you can put a team name, team email ID, also team A at something. This is a free text field. Whereas here we have a responsible team, which is a field which we can choose from here. We'll come to that. How do we set that? And tags, again, this is like the tags we use in videos and we use in blogs, etc., where they add searchable uh, metadata to the object. So same way, if I'm creating a view and it is related to sales or it is related to finance, uh, I can add all this, and it makes it easy to search based on the tags. So if a user is new to the data sphere, they want to see all the things related to finance, they can just check the finance tag and it will list all the things that has a finance tag. And for tags, there has to be some sanity or some agreement with everyone, right? So if someone is going to type finance like this and someone is just going to type fi and someone is going to type fin like that, then that basically kills the purpose of the tags, right? So you all have an agreement, again, like the naming convention within your team, you all have an agreement, say that we will always use the full words, we will always use the lowercase, and these are all the predefined tags or something, and then stick to that. That way, yeah, you have a much better, you know, it's a very good tag that's going on in the system. So that is basically the business purpose, right? So depends on object, yeah, like the name suggests, it's obvious. So what are all the dependent objects here, right? So now I have not activated the view, so it's not used anywhere. So if I activate it and then I consume this view in somewhere, then when I come to dependent object, I'll see all those here, right? So yeah, some of this uh, will be covered as part of the other things that we are going to do. So especially the association and data access control. Right. This business purpose, yeah, I just now explained to you. And dependent objects, it's an obvious feature. Like it's basically before this lineage was a thing. This is one of the ways in which people used to understand where a particular object is used. Right. Yeah. So that is some of the basic things I wanted to share with you. That's one aspect of it. So the second thing we have not seen or used so far is, so let me fix the name first. And let's enable it for consumption. And this button, right? Run in analytic mode, right? So this is also a performance feature. And again, it will be explained here, I believe. So make the object for consumption. So it is not explained here. Let's check help. It is explained here. So if you see that in general, if your view is using union, so in this case, it is using union. That's why I'm telling you now, right? So in general, if your view is using union, right, and then if it is exposed for consumption, then enable this run in analytic mode. That helps HANA. If you want, if you are a HANA consultant, you can go to this documentation and you can see exactly what HANA hint it will provide. But yeah, in general, if your view is using union, then if you enable this, it will not do anything bad for you. But at places where it can do query pruning, it can prune the query. For example, like I'm connecting two tables. So one table has the data from current year, one table has the data from previous year. And there is an input parameter, and I am only querying data for the current year. Then what happens is, with this run in analytic mode on, the query that is going to the HANA will be pruned and it will not reach the two tables. It will just reach the one table because it already knows that from the analytic perspective, they are just asking me the current year data, which is there in this table or view, right? So I don't have to even reach the other one. So that way it will do performance improvements. So yeah, that is an optional feature which you can enable. And in case of unions, yeah, generally enable that. It will not negatively hurt you, but yeah, whenever possible, it will improve your performance. Now, the main aspect is I'm coming to the expose for consumption, right? So we have seen that I can create a fact and then I can create an analytic model, and we already saw that analytic model we can use through the DataSphere live connection. But if I am not creating analytic model, I just want to consume this view itself. Then how do I do that? We saw that there is an option called OData, right? So now we'll get into the details of this OData. So before that, can someone tell me why is there an error now?
Because it did not select any measure.
Exactly. So I made it a fact. So I have to select a measure. So I selected it. So now let's deploy. So now I have two views. So one view is called sales order view one, which I did not expose for consumption. And the other view is called sales order view, which I exposed for consumption. Right. So now we'll see how to create a OData connection in SAC. And then we'll see what are all the things that are available in that OData consumption. I don't know today why this is kind of getting in the way. Let me stop sharing and then again. It usually goes into hiding. Okay. Okay. So now I have, the view is deployed, and now we have this button which is generate OData request, and there are two tabs, and then there are multiple options here. So first, let's talk about, what are these two tabs, right? So one is called OData request URL, and the other is the OData metadata URL, right? So one is the data URL, the other is the metadata URL. First, what is OData? So it is a protocol. Basically, there are many protocols, right? Like REST API. So like that, there are many protocols. Like that, OData is also a protocol, and it is especially used in this kind of data and analytics for data querying, right? So you have a kind of entity. So here they don't call it table. So if you have entities like the sales order views entity in a OData schema, you can query that, and just like SQL queries in OData also, you can filter, you can sort, you can rank, you can get the first 1,000, you can get the next 1,000, all that things. But generally, it's a data transfer protocol, which is used, and it's used a lot in SAP landscape. So when you want to connect to two systems, this can be one of the ways to connect it. Right now, if I want to check the metadata, I can just say go to metadata, copy the URL, and then if I put it in my browser, so it gives me the OData metadata, right? So here it basically says what is my entity set. It is the sales order view, and inside that, what are all the properties that we have 3 columns, and so on and so forth. So if you are if you are coming from a OData background, so in general, in S4 HANA side and all, we create CDS views, and then we generate OData based on the CDS views. And if you are coming from .NET background, you write .NET code in C# or some language, C++ or some language, and then you generate the OData as the API, right? So same way in DataSphere, you don't have to do anything. You create a graphical view and expose it for consumption, and that generates the OData for you. And this is the generated OData. This is the OData itself, like the metadata of that OData entity itself. So for some reason, if you want it, yes, you can access it here, and then you can use this as a reference. For example, if you're going to ChatGPT to ask something about this entity, right? So you're going to ask, I want to filter, or I want to rank, or I want to do something, because you are not very familiar with the OData code. You want ChatGPT to generate something. Then the better way to do it is this. You see the schema tag here, right? So all this previously is like header information, and whatever is in between this the schema tag between the data service tag, that is basically your entire OData schema. So you can just copy all the code from the schema tag to the schema tag, and then you can ask ChatGPT or anything about your OData, and then it will understand your entire entity and it will answer questions for you. Right? For that, this metadata URL is useful. And then we have the actual data URL. Right? So there are two tabs. When I switch, there is a slight difference happening here. If you see here, entity set and then dollar metadata is there. If I go here, entity set slash again The name of the view is that. Okay. So if I can also preview from here. I can click preview and it will show the exact thing. And here, if I go to metadata and preview, it will show the exact thing. That is one way I can preview directly from here. Sometimes this is good. But yeah, if you want to see it in a separate tab, you can copy URL always and you can put it in a browser and you can see it. But the only thing is the data sphere session should be active. You might think that it is not asking for any authentication or anything. It is just giving me the data. But if I go to a different session, right, I just open the incognito mode. If I try to access that, it is not going to let me, right? Because there is no data sphere session. It's going to ask me the username and password. So because I have a data sphere session active, these URLs are working like this, right? So someone has asked me like, when we open that URL in a new tab, it was working, but why inside SAC while we are creating the connection, we have to give a user and password and all that, right? This is the reason. This is working because it is just like I am clicking the preview button. It is using the same data sphere session. If I just log out and if I try this, it will not work. That is why I showed it in incognito mode. When I try it, it will not work. So your data is not getting exposed or anything, right? It's not a public URL. It is still under lock and key. So still only the users that has access, they can only see it. And all the other things will also apply. So if we are not talked about it yet, so we will see that in data access control and so on. So all that access control, everything will apply. The data level security will be ensured. So there is no harm in using the OData. Okay. So now let's see how do we connect to the SAC tenant. So if I go to connections, right? So last time we saw how to create a live connection, right? So for DSP system. So this time we are going to create an import connection or acquired connection, right? And then under acquired connection, we have a type called OData service. So I select OData service, right? And it asks for a name. I'm just going to say Ram. You can use your names. And in the data service URL, you can give the URL that you copy. And the authentication, you can either give basic authentication and your username and password, or you can give, uh, any of these options, but then you have to generate all those. So one thing I am going to do is, so you cannot use this no authentication when it comes to SAP or OData services because generally they are not public. So if I give no authentication and if I try to create it, it will basically say check the connection detail and user credentials, right? So there are two flags here basically to indicate whether the OData service you are using is related to SAP. So in this case, yes. So I am giving connect to SAP OData service. And in general, like I said, in S4 HANA also you can generate OData, and in multiple SAP products you can generate OData. And if it is an on-premise system, you will enable this connection also. So in that case, it will ask for a cloud connected detail and all. But in our case, we are connecting to DataSphere, which is not an on-premise system. It is a cloud. So I don't have to check this option. Now coming back to the authentication, for simplicity, we'll just use username and password. So I will just put if I remember my password correctly. Yep, just give me 1 minute. Let me quickly check my password income. Okay, I think the basic auth is not possible here because this two systems, I think Ankit has connected them to some IAS system, identity provider, right? And that basically gives the identity. So, and also I forgot my username and password. So, and even if I know that, if I generate it, I will not be able to use it. So, anyway, the longer thing is to create the authorization code, right? The auth credentials. So, let's see that. So, how to do the auth client credentials. So, to do that, so you have to go to the administration. So, can you see my screen again?
Yes, yes.
So if you see here, now I give a name, data, and I say SAP, and here it is asking me for the data service URL, which I know I have pasted, but here it is asking me different things. So it is asking me the OAuth client ID, secret, token URL, scope, and so on, right? So where do I get all these details? So if I choose authorization code also, it is asking me the client ID, secret, token URL, authorization URL, and so on. So where do I get all these things? Right. So for this, so if I go here to administration, and then there is a section called app integration. So if I go to app integration, I can say add new OAuth client, and there are some information that are maintained here, right? So if I go here and say OAuth client credentials, right? So here we are adding a client, and here we are going to give the client credentials, right? So what is the first thing it is asking? OAuth client ID, which we will create a new client now. And the second thing it's asking secret, which when we create a new client, we'll get the secret. But the third thing is token URL. So if I go here, I see something called as token URL. So which I can copy from here. So I can put it, right? And in the other option, like if I go to authorization code, it will ask me token URL and authorization URL also, right? So if I go here, the authorization URL is this one. So which I can copy and I can put it here, right? And in same way, like if you are creating in some other system, not this, but maybe you are using an external system or external API. And if they ask for other things like the OAuth 2 SAML token URL or audience, some specific URL, you will find all that option here, and you can copy and paste from here. Okay. Now coming to the client ID and secret itself. So for example, there is already a client ID. So if I edit that, I can see that there are some privileges which are already set for this client. So it's an interactive usage, and this is the client, name. It is not the ID. So what I see is some people mistaking this. They think this is the ID and this is the secret. No, the secret is here, and the secret will be only shown during the creation, right? So it is up to you to copy and store it somewhere, but if you have not stored it, then it is basically lost. You cannot do anything to get it back, right? That's where you can use some password depot or something to store the password, or at least a simple notepad and keep it safe, right? Or else now, even though I have this client, I cannot use this client because I only know the ID, I don't know the secret, right? So now I will create a new client. So let's call it again SAC. And interactive usage, API access, both are there. So we want interactive usage. API access is generally for things like, you call it from Postman and then do something. But in this case, we are just going to call it from SAC. So it's not required. So I just keep it as simple. And coming to the connection here. So if you see here, here it asks us for a redirect URI, right? So how do I get that information? So if I go here to the connections, here you see redirect URI. So here itself, it's giving the redirect URI. So you basically can copy it from there and paste it here. So we have given the redirect URI, and all the other things can be default. So if you already know what is a OAuth client and all that, you know what these things are, right? So you can change the parameters, right? So every time there will be a new token generated, and that token will be valid for 1 hour, right? And when that token expires, another new token will be generated. So that is called refreshing the token. Right? So every time it can refresh, and this entire thing, like the entire this particular client that we are creating, that will be, that max duration will be this for the refresh token lifetime. So after that, yeah, again a new thing has to be created, and again adjusting all these parameters. It depends on what use you are going to do and understanding of what, right? So we'll not go into too much details there. So I'll just say add. So the moment I add it, then only I'll get the secret, right? So I have the secret here. I can copy it, but I have to store it somewhere, because once you close the window, you will not even, the copy button will not be there, and you will not be able to see it or put it somewhere, right? So now I have the secret. I paste the secret here, and the ID is this one, not this one. So a lot of people, put this and then they try and then the connection is not working. Right? So I put it there. So everything is okay. So I can say create. So now a pop-up appears, right? So it does that authentication for us. Right? All the URLs are getting called and all that. It generates a new token and so on. Probably I did something wrong here. So I just want this part.
But this
Okay,
is like,
so
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Do you had any questions? I don't know what's going wrong, so maybe I have to figure out and then.
No, please go ahead, please. I'll ask last.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, there is something wrong. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Let me check. Anyone has any idea if I'm doing something obviously wrong? Token URL and not URL.
See, basically, when we do this, we need to have four things. One is auth token URL and client ID, client secret. I think those two already have it. Token URL, actually at the end you need to add auth/token. I think
No,
you
but
added
this is the auth/token, right? So that's what I put here. Auth/token.
Can you go to alt tab? Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah, that is the one, auth token, correct. And then you have client ID, client secret copied. So it should work. And actual URL, what URL you have passed? What is the URL?
This one. Probably 443 I should use. What number?
Normally
it's not required. Yeah, I'll check that why it is failing. Maybe it has to do.
That is not actually URL, right? That is only host name you entered. Data service URL, it should be with service name also. It's just host name you entered.
So I can give the entire this URL which we copied from that particular service. Okay.
See, when you open the metadata, right? Metadata you opened, right? So that whole URL, except metadata, the whole URL you have to give. What did you say? Data version 4.0 credentials connection.
Okay, it is saying in V4, you don't have to use that check.
Okay.
So yeah, until V2, it is required. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ramana. Yeah. So basically, let's go ahead and create a model. So the difference between the live connection to DataSphere and this OData connection is that in live connection, you can directly go to the story and then start using it, right? Unlike other live connections. In other live connections, you have to create a live model first and then use it. But for DataSphere model, you don't have to create it. So last time we saw directly you can go to a story and consume it. Whereas in the acquired connection, you have to come here. In the side panel, there is a section called modeler, right? So you have to come here and then you have to click this create new model, right? And you have to go for the option start with data. And here the type is OData service because that's what we created, right? So go to OData service and it will list all the OData connections in the system. So I just created, I think, one of this. I don't know which one. So to select one. So it will basically, so not this one. I think this is a general OData data experiment. So this one. So you see here the sales order view, which we exposed, right? So it is there. So I can consume this. So I can go next. I can see all my, this is where the metadata is called and it is reading all the columns and everything. So I can select it and I can create. Now the model will get created and the data will get loaded. So you have to remember that there is actual data movement because it is an import connection. In SAC, import connection means it will read the data from the source and store it locally in SAC. Right? So previously, why we required such import connection and such acquired model is because in SAC you can do planning, right? And planning does not support live models. So DataSphere models are only live, right? So you cannot directly go to a story and do planning. So in case of planning, what you will do is, even though if you create an analytic model, in the analytic model, it is exposed both as live connection via live connection, as well as it can also be exposed as OData service, right? So if you're going for planning in SAC, you will expose the analytic model as a OData service, and then you will create a connection to that OData service URL, and you will create a model like this, right? So you can see the data here in the bottom, that data preview. So here is the preview option. So you can see the data and you can see the metadata. So this is how you will create a model in SAC. The difference is there is actual data movement. So there is data redundancy. So if there are 1 million record here and you create a OData connection and you load the model, then here also there will be some data. You can apply filters.
But if I do not want planning, right? I want the real data movement, right? That I can use the live connection, right? Because I am not doing a planning using data.
Yeah, if you only want to see the data in the story and you want real-time data, then you can just use the live connection. Don't have to go for the
many cases SSC planning licensing I do not have. So if I am just a analytic developer, so in that case it will be live connection always.
Live connection always. I mean, in general, like if you don't have to do anything in modeling, for example, you want to create something, you can create it already in DataSphere. Right? Other than planning, if you want to create a calculated measure or something, that all you can do in DataSphere itself. So it doesn't make sense to create an import model, bring the data again to SAC, and then do the some modeling enhancements, etc. Right? So the only reason I can think of is planning, right? And even now that is going to go away because now they are doing something called a seamless planning, where there will be an option, when you click the create model itself. So instead of this pop-up, one additional pop-up will come when a DataSphere tenant is linked to SAC, right? Where the additional pop-up will ask you whether you want to create the model in SAC or you want to create the model in DataSphere, right? So if you say, I want to create the model in DataSphere, what happens is it will list you all the spaces and you can pick one space and you can create the model in that space. That way, it becomes somewhat similar to the Open SQL schema that we are using, right? So we have a space schema, we have Open SQL schema, where we create something in Open SQL schema. It just acts like a local table. So same way in SAC, if you create the model itself inside a DataSphere view or the DataSphere space. So what happens is you don't have this kind of data redundancy and all that. So that's what they are coming up with in SSE. But for now,
So that means,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
being in SSC, you are going to create a data sphere a tenant, and you'll be creating all these things modeling there, right? It will be inside SSC. Okay.
It will be inside SSE. I mean, it will be logically, it is the data is inside DataSphere, but now SSE and DataSphere becomes the data storage layer for SSE. So
Okay.
the
Okay.
SSE does not store the data again.
By any case, you do not have to traverse the data from DataSphere to SSC. It will be still in the DataSphere.
Yes.
Planning also.
So now it is in beta phase. So once it is out of beta phase, so this is the thing. So it is called seamless planning or smooth planning experience. So once this feature is, they say it is generally available, even this two tenants should have that option because, they are now basically two paid tenants only. So currently it is in beta. That means only the beta customers will get it, not everyone. So once it is out of beta, so we have already linked the DataSphere tenant and SSE tenant, right? That only that thing is required, the tenant linking. So if the tenants are linked, so basically that the administrator will do the tenant linking. Once the tenants are linked, whenever a planning modeler inside SSE, they create model, they can select a DataSphere space, and then that model gets created in the DataSphere. So basically, DataSphere will act like the data storage for SSE directly. So all the planning features you are still able to use, but there is no data redundancy in DataSphere and then in SSE. In SSE, basically there is no data. The data is actually in DataSphere itself. So that is something that is coming up, and we can look up to that. Right? So I will put the link here. If someone is interested both in planning and DataSphere, you can go ahead and read it. And we can expect, I think, this feature somewhere in next year, 2025 release. Okay. So any questions on this?
Yeah. So first thing is like you kind of connected DataSphere with embedded SCSE.
In which one?
I mean that SCSE you have used is embedded SCSE, right? Not like onto the separate SCSE system server.
No, there is no embedded SSE for DataSphere.
Okay.
So previously there used to be an embedded SSE. So in DataSphere, there will be data builder, business builder. On top of that, there is something called as a story builder. So that story builder used to be the embedded SSE. Right. So then, they wanted a clear separation of SSE and DataSphere. So they removed the option itself. So now there is no concept of embedded SSE. So now there is always this two tenants, separate SSE tenant, separate DataSphere tenant, and linking between them. So the seamless planning that we are talking about will work on it's not called embedded SSE. It's just called a tenant linked to DataSphere.
No, it's fine. I mean, my question is not regarding this. And
the way you are saying embedded VPC, this concept they are doing, right?
Yeah. Go ahead with the question. I think that's what the question is.
Sorry. I interrupted. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. So, and second thing is like as you mentioned, like these are two servers, separate servers. Now, where do we import the certificates to make it trust each other?
That doesn't. I mean, none of that actually changes, right? So already, I mean, if they both are SSE and DataSphere, generally their origin is trusted. The certificate trust is not required. They are both signed by the same root authority. So between SSE and DataSphere, certificate trust is not required.
But in organizations like most probably they'll use altogether separate tenants itself. There could be chances there will be separate tenants itself. So in that case, trust is required, right, between two tenants.
Yes, I'm coming to that. So if you're using HANA or something, you generate certificates because the certificates expire and you have to give the certificate like that. But these two are cloud products, and when they use HTTPS, SAP has to get this certificate. They have to keep it refreshed. They have to keep it renewed and everything. So that all happens automatically. And the good thing is between SAC and DataSphere, it is the same certification authority. So they do not have to trust each other because they both work on the same certificate. So if you export the certificate and check all the root signing authority, it will be this DigiCert Global Root G2. Right? So there is nothing required on this certificate level. The only thing that can be required is this one. So for example, if the one tenant, say for example, is in BR10 and the other tenant is in AP something, and the domain is also not ending in this HCS, HCS cloud.sap. So if they are different, sometimes what you have to do is you have to say add trusted origin, and then you have to put the SAC URL in DataSphere and the DataSphere URL in SAC. That might be required sometime.
Okay. And second thing is like connection you have created, right?
Mm-hmm.
So connection, two queries I have. One is like, do we create connection for each and every OData service from the same DataSphere server to same SAC? Or we can create one destination kind of stuff, and then we use that destination, and we only add this OData prefix path. Okay. So something like that we do, like in BTP we do. Or if it is if we need to create a connection for each OData service. Okay, so in that case, we need to create that connection in each system, in each tenant, right? Like dev, quality, and production.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like that? Because see,
okay.
my
I'll come to this. To this. Yes, we require to do both the things. So I will tell you why. So in general, yes, there is a way to create one connection which will list all the exposed, all the exposed things, and not require one connection for each of the OData service URL. So we'll see that how to create that type of connection. I just forgot like what URL path to put there. It will be in the documentation. I'll check that and I'll show you tomorrow.
Okay.
Right. The other thing is sometimes, you might want to target only one URL, especially when you require planning, right? Why? Because it's not only about importing the data from DataSphere to SAC, which is done by this import job, right? After you have done the planning, you might want to write the data back from SAC to DataSphere. Then in that case, you will create another connection, in the DataSphere also, and you will check all the OData related, details from SAC's administration. You will get the authorization, all that stuff, and then you will create a connection in the DataSphere side. And then in SAC, you create something called as an export job, where you target a particular data service URL to write back to using that connection to write the data which was created in planning from SAC back to DataSphere. Right? So that way, yes. So we require, a single data service URL, and for reading, you can. There is a way to create a generic data service URL and access all the OData from that. But I need to get that correct URL, which I will show you tomorrow.
Okay. So okay, then maybe we can discuss tomorrow that.
Okay, sure. Okay, so now let's go back to the data builder. So any other questions from anyone?
I have a question. As you said, we can, we can connect one DataSphere talent with the SAC, DataSphere with SAC. So if we have other tenants from DataSphere connecting to SAC, still we need any certificate to be transferred, or it will be done seamlessly.
Okay, so between SAC and DataSphere, you can have any number of DataSphere connected to any number of SAC, and again, there is no certification required because both of the products by SAP, they are signed by the same certification authority. The only thing that is required is you have to create connections, different connections to the different DataSphere tenants. That is one type of connection, right? So you can connect, say for example, I have 5 DataSphere tenants and I have one SAC. So in that one SAC, I can create 5 connections to all the 5 different DataSphere tenants. That is connection part. But now when I go to this product switcher, it shows SAC and DataSphere, right? So this is called tenant linking. So this tenant
Yes.
linking is always one-to-one. So
Yes.
if I want to switch to a DataSphere, always that will be only one DataSphere. And from DataSphere, if I want to switch to SAC, it will always be one SAC. So that setting we are doing again in the administration under the tenant linking, where we can maintain only one system, and that tenant linking is required for features like this for seamless planning and all. So that means for one SAC system, only one DataSphere system can act like the storage layer. I cannot have 5 different systems acting as the storage layer, right? So for some feature, like currently for this only one feature, the restriction is that you can have only one, linked tenant acting as the data storage layer. But for any other feature, you just have to read the data from DataSphere and use it in SAC. You can connect any number of DataSphere systems using the connection option. Yeah, so here is the tenant linking. So this is where I put my SAC URL and DataSphere URL. Same way in SAC also. If we go to administration, we'll have tenant linking where you put that details. Yeah. So any other questions? If not, we'll start one interesting topic for data flow. Right. So one assignment, I'll note it down because I will forget it. So one assignment so far we have seen is.
Should we take a 10 minutes break? It's too much to handle in one go.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually,
Maybe,
we should give a bio break. So otherwise,
that's true. Okay, we'll meet at 9:10. We'll meet at 9:10 or even 9:15.
9:15. Let's make it 9:15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one question from my end, if you're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we don't transport connections, right? We only transport the data service and the respective other part which you did it in SAC. But connections you will create individual in each system, each tenant, right? Like they test and product.
Typically, yes. But yeah,
because the URL changes, right? URL changes for a DAC DataSphere test to dev. So dev to test. So definitely it can't be the same connection. So URL
changes. URL changes. Yeah. That's true. But yeah, I mean, there is no restriction. For example, like if I want to try and export something, right? So even connections can be exported and imported, right? So if you see, there is an option for exporting connection and importing connection. And I mean, that makes sense because sometimes in quality system, for example, in quality SAC, yes, most of the time I will be connected to quality DataSphere only. But sometimes I might want to connect to the
I understand. Same DataSphere, dev only. A lot of people use dev only as test and dev. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you can transport connections, but ideally, like you said, generally speaking, we will create the connections, not transport them most of the time.
Yeah, maybe you understand. I understand because they will create one space for dev, one space for test in the same tenant.
Yeah, which is not recommended, but yeah, that's general practice. Some people are creating. Yes.
Correct. To overcome the cost cutting.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so I'll step away for a few minutes for a bio break, and then I'll be back. So if you have any questions, yeah, maybe we can discuss after.
Not a discussion at all. Do you have any hands-on document with you? Like whatever you're covering, any hands-on document, we can follow those steps in the document.